If you're wanting to focus on brand, go social. If you want to focus on generating traffic and growth and get patients, do Google. It just depends on what your growth goals are, but that's why we have to kind of tailor it to what you want in your office.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, and I first want to thank our sponsors, Dental Intelligence, the Doc Sites, and Cloud Dentistry for their support. Today's episode is called Avoid Common Marketing Mistakes While Growing Your Dental Office. Please welcome to the Raving Patients podcast, Brandon Bosch from Dr. Marketing. Brandon, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Len.
So, Brandon, to begin with, just for introductory purposes, can you let people know your background, what your company does, and how they help dental offices?
Sure. So my background has been in marketing for a long time. When I was going to go to school back almost 20 years ago, my dad said to me, follow your heart and not your head. So I was going to go to school for business. And then right before I was supposed to accept, I decided not to accept and went to film school instead. And while I was in film school, I started a business that did marketing. So I ended up leaving that and then just pursuing the business and made a killing doing it, but it was more focused on real estate agents. Ended up selling off that business after a few years and then started working in telecom for big telecom companies in Canada. So like Rogers, TELUS, Bell, that sort of thing. And I was working in advertising, and eventually I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I started my own company, and that was Dr. Marketing back in 2014. And I never looked back. The first week I was actually in business, I landed my first client who prepaid 2 years of service. So to me, that just meant that I was on the right path. But so I've been doing this. I've been in marketing for well over 15 years. In dentistry specific, I've been dealing with dentists for really since 2008. I had my first client as a dentist, but since 2012 was when we really focused in on it, when I was working in telecom and advertising. And then Dr. Marketing, that's all we do is just dentists. So since 2014, that's all we've ever done.
So you're obviously dedicated or solely or exclusively dealing with dentists. And are you a full-scale marketing agency? Do you focus on mostly digital? How exactly do you help dental offices?
So they pretty much leave the marketing to me. So they say, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for implants. I'm looking for pediatrics. I'm looking for orthodontics. They tell me the types of patients that they want to see in their office. They tell me the general age range of their existing patient base. That the demographics aren't really important, really, when we're working with new clinics who just established an office. So we just kind of work with the clinic to find out really what they're looking for, and then once we figure that out, we start marketing for their office, but they just kind of leave it to us. There's a trust that's built between us and the clinic owner. So really, if we say to them, hey, we want to do a Google Ads campaign, and the clinic owner says that they're not financially stable to do that, then I have to respect that. And on the flip side, if they try to tell us to do a Facebook campaign and I don't think it's a great resource or a great source for their resources to generate traffic or to generate patients, generate followers, whatever it is, I'm going to tell them that, and they have to respect it on their side. So there's the huge trust component that goes into what we do. But overall, it really depends on what the clinic is looking for, the types of patients they want to receive, the amount of patients, and then they just kind of leave the marketing side up to us because that's what we're good at. And then we just kind of circle back with a dentist every so often, just to see how the leads are that they're working. Are they generating patients? Are the leads converting into patients? What types of leads are they generating? Is it family? Is it general? Is it restorative, cosmetic, endo, perio? What are they looking for? And that feedback that they end up giving us is extremely helpful in us making any sort of modifications to the marketing campaign. So typically they just kind of give us feedback and then we do our thing. And as long as they're happy, we're happy.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So I want to jump into the content. We have a lot of content to cover. And I think one of the things I love talking about are common marketing mistakes you see that offices are making. Where in your opinion are things there in terms of common marketing mistakes?
There's quite a few mistakes. I actually have a list here. I bullet point formed it for you. There are six main categories for mistakes. One is incorrect phrasing. We do see this a lot, using words like guarantee, best, state of the art, or the word love. Don't do that. The word testimonials. Do not place written testimonial on your website because it's treated as a statement of fact when you can't actually prove who wrote something. Video testimonials, totally different though. Use video testimonial as much as possible. Incentives. If you have an incentive, remove it. Free teeth whitening for new patient exam as an example. Don't offer incentives because it attracts the wrong type of patient to your clinic. The patient will come in, they'll get the incentive, and then when it's time to recall, you're not going to see them back. So your lead acquisition cost just keeps skyrocketing from there. Groups and associations. So don't list any study groups you're part of, any continuing education courses you're part of, or any list any positions that you hold at an association. You just don't want to do that because it opens too many doors into the association and into continuing education. Starts to get really complicated when you do stuff like that. When it comes to contact information, the big one is using the incorrect title or designation. We've seen this a lot. People calling themselves like best dentist or supreme dentist, dental ruler, like different things like that. Don't do that. Having multiple websites for your same clinic, it can be perceived as deceptive. And then having a lot of mistakes when it comes to directories, places like Yellow Pages, Manta, Better Business Bureau, Rate MDs, Health Grades, things like that. Make sure that all your contact information across every directory is accurate, because that in turn not only helps the patient find your contact info, but also helps Google rank you higher. And then the last one is when it comes to marketing, promoting for services that you don't offer. Plagiarism, even if it's from the CDC, when it comes to COVID, don't plagiarize. Having improper explanations for your procedures, and having an improper marketing budget, both that's too low and too high. If it's too high, you're overspending, lead acquisition cost goes up. If it's too low, you're not going to show up when we're doing ads campaigns. So there's got to be like some sort of happy median. So we try to find out what the median dentist is spending in a similar geographic region, and then try to spend 10 to 20% more than the median.
Interesting list you had there. Some of the things I've really never heard before. I definitely agree with making sure the name, address, and phone number is consistent online. That's a big thing I talk about for visibility online. Google's got to trust the business. If they don't trust it, you ain't ranking. So that's something I'm a big proponent of. I'm curious about something you mentioned about name and name of you specifically mentioned the name of the contact name of the business. I'm curious what your feeling is, because one of the biggest mistakes I see made are marketing companies who don't put the name, address, and phone number, which is the main contact information, in the right spot.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that. So even if it's something simple like Brandon Dental Clinic, right? If the clinic is not there, or office is not there, or practice is not there, or if it's like Brandon Dentistry, right? If the name is incorrect, any variation of it, and Google has a different name, you go down in a spot. If the phone and fax number are mixed up, you go down in a spot. If your unit number is missing, you go down in a spot. If your website address is missing, you go down in a spot. Your incorrect industry, services, hours are not listed, you go down. So you have to make sure every single one of these things, including the business name, that's like the most important thing. Whatever's on Google should be on your website, should be on every directory online.
Perfect. The last thing you mentioned was talking about how they spend the wrong amount of money. So the budgeting is not correct. It's either too low or too high. I'm curious, because that's another speaking point that we wanted to get to is, there's always some discrepancy. I don't want to say discrepancy. There's a lot of practices who obviously spend nothing on marketing and they're happy. And then there's that practices that are overspent. I actually was at a meeting this past weekend in San Diego, and I met a plastic surgeon who spends $100,000 a month on Google AdWords, and it blew my mind. $98,000 was his marketing budget on Google Ads every single month. Of course, it's too much. Of course, it's too much. So what do you think a marketing budget should be for a dental practice?
1 to 4% of annual sales.
1 to 4% of revenue. So $1 million, you should be spending $10,000 to $40,000. Okay.
A year, so divided evenly between all marketing efforts.
Okay. I use a typical number. If you're a startup, it's going to be a little higher, obviously, because you're just getting started. You need to have a website and everything else that's costly. I put a number closer to 5 to 6% typically, but I think 1% is low. I think 4% is okay. I think it's now. You said some people spend too much. What do you think is too high then?
So let me clarify. That 1% is for clinics that get a ton of business from referrals, a lot of walk-by traffic. They're booked 6 weeks in advance. They have one hygienist. They don't really need marketing. So they're going to be spending $100 a month, right? Like next to nothing. The 4% is more for clinics that just hired an associate, just built out another operatory. They want to grow. And so they're going to be spending more than the average clinic. Now, too much, you can't really have too much, because if it's a brand new build, if it's a brand new clinic, they're going to be spending everything that they have to grow that office. So too much on an established office would be anything over like 7 or 8%, like that. Like I've seen clinics that are spending 15% of their annual sales in marketing. They have a strong patient base, but they have a lot of patient turnover.
Yeah, they have to keep the patients coming because they lose patients. The attrition rate's really high. And that's one of the things that, frustrates me, is that when I talk to doctors, they don't know their numbers, and they know how many new patients they're getting, but they don't know how many patients are leaving through the back door. And if the numbers are there's too much of a discrepancy, you actually have a practice that's going downhill. It's not going uphill. So you have to constantly bring in those new patients if you're losing too many through the back door. So tell me, as we move into 2023, what do you think top dental offices are doing to market their offices? Where do you see them putting the money and getting the best bang for the buck?
It depends on what they're looking for. So let's just take Google and Meta, Facebook, right? Just take these two platforms. Google generates leads now. Facebook or Meta, Instagram, social media, TikTok, and any one of the social media platforms, those are good at generating followers, especially when you promote on them and use their platforms to promote. They generate followers. Followers will eventually turn into patients. But with Google, you can geographically target people to get leads in your local area. With social media, if you go viral, you're getting followers from all over the world. I'll give you a prime example. One of our clients is a TikTok sensation. She has 2.5 million followers. She has almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. But when we looked at her geographics, I think it was less than 1% was even in her specific geographic radius. So you couldn't really, she's not really generating leads. Yes, she's very popular, but she's not really generating any local leads from social media. So depends on the needs of the clinic. If you're wanting to focus on brand, go social. If you want to focus on generating traffic and growth and get patients, do Google. But understand that other things like doing a blog post, running a print campaign can be complementary to the different strategies that you ultimately have. So it just depends on what your growth goals are, but that's why we have to kind of like tailor it to what you want in your office.
Gotcha. And I like what you said that, Google search or Google advertising, pay-per-click, those types of things are geared towards getting patients right away and, right now to the practice. And the fact is that, when you're posting on social media, you're actually creating content, and that content is going to attract followers, and those followers may eventually become patients. The only way that you're really doing, if you're just using Facebook or Instagram or any of these things and posting ads, that's not really content. So you may not have as successful a result with that as you do with Google, in my opinion. So let's talk about the high level understanding of online marketing. When someone reaches out to you and they say, "Hey, I'm looking to grow my practice," you obviously ask some questions. You put a plan together. I would call it an omni-channel approach to marketing. There's multiple ways you can do it. So tell me, what do you think this high level of understanding of online marketing is all about? Just in terms of what practices need to know, what are the highest level that they should be looking at? I mean, obviously, in most cases, dentists are not marketers. I think they need to be, but dentists are not marketers. And they know how to do dentistry. They know how to run a business potentially, but they don't know how to market a practice. And they should be, as you said, they kind of pass it off to you and you do the marketing for them. So, where would you recommend, we mentioned Google AdWords. We mentioned a little bit about social media. Where do you recommend practices, look at to really drive really high growth to their practice from a marketing perspective?
Their website and their staff. Look, you spend $10,000 on a website, 5,000, 1,000, whatever it is. As long as it converts traffic, that's all that matters, right? You could spend $100,000 building a website, but the whole purpose is to convert traffic. If your website doesn't convert traffic, what's the point? The other good thing that you should be focusing on is staff training, because as a marketer, my job stops when the lead comes in. So if your staff aren't saying the right things on the phone, that's not a me problem. That's a them problem. And so that can get into a very sticky situation. So establishing a call recording system, it would be so vital to figuring out who's actually to blame if you're not converting leads, right? Is it the staff or is it the quality of lead that you're actually getting? So getting a website that converts, looking at the analytics of the website, so how long people are staying on it for, how high or how low is your bounce rate, like how long or how long do people stay on your website before leaving? Do they go to other pages on your website? What's the traffic to lead conversion ratio? So if you had 100 people visiting your website, how many of them are turning into leads? And then once they physically turn into a lead, record that conversation so that way you know if it's a quality lead or if it's a staffing issue. So a couple things there, but like the website, I'd say website and call recording would probably be the two biggest things in 2023 that I would focus on.
So are there any key elements of a website that you think are important to getting not only the traffic to get to the site, but also convert? Where should people, a website is now just a website. There are very many, there's some that are just like, they're brochures. They're literally just a brochure about what the business is about. There's a lot of websites that are interactive. They have ways to engage the visitor, keep the bounce rate low because they're actually engaging with what's on the website. So are there any key element designs or any key things that you think a practice should have on their website moving forward?
Chatbot. Not a live chat system that requires an agent, because that is resources that you're putting into it. I'm talking about a chatbot, an AI system that will convert the patient into a lead. So, give you an example. We have a chatbot for I don't know, half of our clients. When a patient engages with the chatbot, the chatbot will pick up what they've said and will spit out a response and keep them engaged. The longer that they're engaged, the longer they're on the website, the lower the bounce rate. So chatbot, and it generates leads too, so which is a huge benefit. So not only are you getting a more popular website by people staying on it longer, but that in turn helps your Google ranking, and you're generating more leads from the traffic that's coming into your website. So it's probably one of the best things that I would use is a chatbot.
And to be clear, guys, and people listening and viewing, there are multiple different types of chatbot. One is like a product called Simplify that has an agent who answers the chats 24/7. They're passing the leads off to the practice. The practice is handling those leads. There's also, as Brandon just said, there is also a chat bot, which is AI driven, and they're answering questions. And there's also chat products that are what we call web chats, where you can actually, the practice will be able to message back and forth with the patient, but it's no longer on the website. Once they engage, it's actually on their cell phone. So there's a number of different types of bots or chat companies or chat products that are available, which I think is great.
And you can integrate them.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry.
And some of them do multiple things. I mean, some of them have multiple opportunities. So I definitely think a chat is definitely the future, because you never know. I mean, fewer and fewer people are wanting to call offices. They want to engage in a different way. And that's why I think online scheduling is a big thing coming even now and in the future, is where they don't even have to engage with the audience or the office, I should say. And they're simply going on the website, making an appointment, booking the appointment, and then they show up and they have the dentistry done.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Online scheduling is huge right now.
It is 100% so. So we talked about chatbots. I'm curious, what do you think about, and you mentioned it, how you shouldn't have a written testimonial necessarily. You should focus on video testimonials. So talk to us a little bit about video testimonials, because I think they're really important, and I don't think it's used enough in the industry. I call them actually video trustimonials. That was a phrase I coined many years ago, because you're creating trust with people looking at the videos. So what are your feelings about video testimonials, trustimonials, whatever you want to call it, and the best way practice should take care of those?
I would say focus in on patients that you like, but don't say that with patients that you like. Don't just focus on the patients. You can get testimonials from your staff. You can get testimonials from your vendors and your suppliers, from your landlord. It doesn't just have to be patient driven. People that engage with you, people that like you, like get testimonials from everyone, but do it video wise, because written testimonial, people can write a testimonial, but they like to keep it short, 3, 4 sentences, something like that. So they're not really staying engaged. They'll quickly skim through it and then move on. Whereas a video, it's 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. And obviously, the more you can engage with the patient through these videos, the better it's ultimately going to be for the clinic, right? Because then, or the office or the practice or whatever type of office that you end up running. But you want to engage more through video, but it doesn't just have to be patient driven. Even a testimonial with the clinic owner or with the office owner would be helpful.
Gotcha. So I know we touched very briefly on both Google and social media, or as you call it, Facebook or Meta. As we kind of get to the end of the content, I wanted to kind of talk about the benefits of Google advertising or Facebook, Google pay-per-click advertisings, the advantages and disadvantages of Google AdWords versus social media. Because I know there's a different cost. I know we talked about some of the where you have one versus followers, one versus leads, but there's a lot more to Google advertising than what we just spoke about.
Yeah, so with Google, you can really get into the nitty gritty of it. Like there are even things called negative keywords where you do not show up for certain things. So if you do not want certain types of patients being attracted to your office, now you can't really do this, but if you don't want certain types of patients come into your office, you can put in negative keywords to make sure that you don't show up for the word cheap, inexpensive, affordable, grants, things like that. Now, you can't really do that on Facebook, but with Facebook, you can target people that are of certain demographics. So you can target people based on their age, their gender, their marital status, their religion. You can target people based on anything, and then you can build an ads campaign that targets those types of people. Now, the thing is with Google, you're actually targeting people that are online looking for answers. With Facebook, they're just looking to be engaged. So if you don't get them engaged, they're not really going to convert, and they're not really going to convert on Facebook anyway. The lead acquisition cost is almost 3 times what it is on Google. So whenever we run any sort of like campaigns for clinics, and they're like, hey, you know what, we want to do both Google and Facebook, we say, okay, that's fine. Let's just take a budget of $1,000. We're going to put 800 towards Google and 200 towards Facebook, because those followers, that ad will turn into followers. Those followers will turn into patients eventually. But this is where we want to focus most of that budget on, is getting those patients now. Once you're booked 6 weeks in advance, then we can put more budget into other social media platforms. But we should not be putting most of it on Facebook unless you are like a huge clinic. You're booked tons and tons in advance. You get tons of walk by traffic, lots of referrals, in which case you can focus on your branding. But Google's the way to go if you're looking at generating leads. It's just, people want answers, but let me just talk about the keywords for 1 second. You have to make sure you're targeting the right types of keywords. That's really important, because let's just take teeth whitening. We're not going to promote for teeth whitening because the profits are just not there. But if we ever did, we're not just going to promote for teeth whitening, the word whitening or whiten my smile. Think of it as if you're a patient. What are you going to promote for? What keywords do you want to show up for? You're going to type in best way to brighten my smile, at-home teeth whitening kits, take-home teeth whitening kits, custom teeth whitening trays, best teeth whitening provider near me. You're going to type in those questions because those are the ones that are going to get you the results. Now, to kind of go alongside that, you don't really want to promote for keywords that are tied to specific procedures. Give you another example here. Patient goes online looking for a dental extraction. How do they know they need a dental extraction? They know they need it because they went to the dentist. The dentist told them that they need it, so they're going online looking for a second opinion. So that lead is not really going to convert you. It's going to convert that patient to go back to their dentist, and it's going to convert them because you basically told them the same information. So that lead acquisition cost is a heck of a lot higher than if I was to promote for restorative dentistry, bleeding gums, emergency, child dentist, where people are really just kind of looking for answers. They're not looking for second opinions. So You have to be very careful with the keywords that you're promoting for and the services that you want to promote for, and also the time of day.
Yeah, that's another big thing. I really like what you said about negative keywords because, there's a lot of dentists out there who try and do Google AdWords themselves, which they can do. But I explained to them that the reason you're paying a company to manage them for you is because they're experts in their space. And I always say, do you know anything about negative keywords? And they look at me like I have 12 heads on because they don't know what I'm talking about. And yes, when you build these campaigns, you don't want to show up for affordable or free or cheap or any of these terms because that's going to attract the wrong type of patients for you. Now I'm curious, what is if a practice wants to focus on high end stuff, they want to focus on dental implants or cosmetic dentistry or Invisalign, how would you go ahead and promote those high value options rather than just general dentistry?
Being a general dentist, you can't call yourself a specialist, unfortunately. So you're at a bit of a disadvantage versus the specialist. If we just take Invisalign as an example, right? Would you, as a patient, prefer to go to a general dentist that advertises Invisalign or orthodontic specialist Invisalign? You're going to click on the orthodontic specialist because that's a person who specializes in orthodontics. So to kind of figure out how to get around something like that, you have to be very, very intelligent with the keyword choice that you end up going after, as well as the time of day that you want to promote for. So it starts to get into a bit of a sticky situation when you're trying to do this, but there are complementary marketing efforts that would be beneficial to do alongside just the Google campaign. Running a print campaign to a specific geographic postal code while you're running a similar geographic ads campaign on Google can be much more effective. So it will be difficult to promote because you can't say specialist or orthodontist, but you could say orthodontics, right? So even a modification of the word where it's not going to get you in trouble with the college or with the association that you're part of, but just changing the word to more coincide with general dentistry and then kind of keeping it similar to being an orthodontist, like that would probably be the best way to do it.
So another on follow up to that. So that's specific. So cosmetic dentistry, there is no specialty. So you're not worried about that in the sense that calling yourself a specialist. But if you wanted to go after those high value, do you recommend focusing fully on Google? Do you recommend a combination of Google and Facebook using some type of funnels? That's what I was more getting at as to how you recommend attracting those patients.
Cosmetic and Invisalign, you're probably better off doing something on Facebook. Because with Invisalign, you can target like kids, but you can't really target kids, but you can target kids that are 16 plus, and you can target parents who have kids, right? So Invisalign or doing any sort of like teeth whitening or cosmetic, you're going to yield a better result on Facebook because people are looking to be engaged by beautiful people, right? That's what it's there for. When you're looking for answers, you go to Google. So certain procedures, you'll get better results on Facebook when it comes to generating leads. Cosmetic is one of them. Invisalign is one of them. Implants is one of them. Teeth whitening is one of them where you're going to get better results. But it just, again, it kind of goes back to not wanting to promote for specific procedures. It's very finicky. You have to really like figure out the best choice for each clinic, but it really depends on what your competitors are doing in the area. I can't really say what's going to be better. It really will depend.
Gotcha. And the last question for me before we move into the Q&A, if there's one thing that you would predict that would be the next best marketing craze or the next best thing in 2023 for practices to look at, some people may say TikTok, some people may say other social medias, but where do you think a future marketing advantage is going to be in which space?
Online scheduling, integrating it into everything, taking it from the lead that's generated on Google or Facebook, bringing it through the website, tracking that into an online scheduler, putting that right into your patient software, and then having the patient software have everything about that patient so you're able to track them all the way through.
Perfect. Okay. I want to spend a few minutes with you, as I do with all my guests, talking about the Q&A section, which is I'm going to ask you some questions, real quick answers. We'll get through 8 to 10 questions, hopefully. So the first question is, what kind of culture exists in your organization and how did you establish it?
Super high energy, friendly, just having an open door. I don't even have a door on my office. If a staff needs me, you come right in, but it's open, completely open door.
What is the number one tactic you use to stay organized?
Write everything down and then prioritize.
Do you have a hard time telling people no?
No.
Which 3 adjectives describe your strengths?
Tenacious, focused, determined.
Okay. If you had one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
Get a lead base, research. That's what's going to put you ahead of your competition. I've got a list of every dental clinic in all of North America.
Okay. I mean, if you could take a class to learn anything, what would it be on?
Probably to entertain my 5-year-old, like balloon twirling, like creating balloon animals.
Okay. All right. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
Easy.
Okay. Do you believe there is some sort of pattern or formula to becoming successful?
Yeah, I do. You got to stay focused. Focus, put in the work, but once you kind of figure out how it's done, it gets a lot easier.
What eats up most of your time that you'd like to change?
HR. HR, payroll, hiring, just takes up too much time.
What book do you wish you can go back and reread as it has made a great impact on you?
0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Okay. And who do you look for advice or mentorship?
I haven't found really one in the past few years. I do watch some videos by, I can't remember his name. He's a very well-known psychologist. So I'm sure he's like all over social media. And I do enjoy kind of watching like Ben Shapiro. I think everybody enjoys that guy. And then Tony Robbins, just like these kind of good speakers that kind of make you feel good about yourself.
All right. Motivational speakers. Nothing wrong with that. So Brandon, thank you for taking part in that. How can people get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to reach out to learn more about what Dr. Marketing can do? And did you have an offer for the viewers or listeners?
Sure. So, drmarketing.io is our website. So that's drmarketing.io. IO is for like tech companies. Our phone number is 800-699-0689. And just call in, talk to somebody, talk to me if you want. My extension's 101. I'm happy to help. If somebody runs a Google Ads campaign, we have a $500 Google Ads credit. Anybody who books a meeting, we give them a $25 Starbucks gift card. I've actually got a handful of them, just kind of ready to go. So anytime somebody books a meeting, we send them a gift card and we say, thanks for being a client.
All right, Brandon. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you like the episode, please share it. Please let everybody know about it. Tell people about Dr. Marketing if they're interested in learning more about another marketing company that's out there. Check out our sponsors, Cloud Dentistry, Dental Intelligence, and the doc sites. They're very supportive of this podcast. And as I end all the episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Brandon, thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.